Okay, let me welcome you all to this Salim Annual Economics Conference 2026. And today in the session, we'll be listening to three papers from three rising researchers. So basically, in all of our conferences, we usually have a couple of sessions for the young economists. So this in earlier editions of this SciEc, we used to call them young economists session. So this time we are calling it rising researchers. So good to have rising researchers with us today. So my name is Mahtabuddin. I'm an assistant professor of economics at the University of Dhaka, and I'm also the research director at SANEM. So it's my pleasure to be with you. So let me introduce my colleagues and our discussants for this session. So on the left, I have Ms. Deepa Das. She is a research associate at SANEM, and I have Mr. Sudipta Roy. Sudipta is also a research associate at SANEM. So both of them has very fantastic hands-on, working with data and research skills. So I'm quite sure that our rising researchers will have pretty good feedback on their papers. So we have three papers for this session, and tentatively we have 90 minutes. What? Okay. So we have until 7:15. So we have almost 90 minutes. So what I will do, I will give each of you around 15 minutes to present the paper. So we have designated timekeepers. So keep an eye on her. So she will show you when 5 minutes left, she will show you 5 minutes, 2 minutes, and 1 minute, or 5 and 1. Okay, and there's no time up? Okay, so when there's 5 minutes left, she will show you 5 minutes left. When there's 1 minute left, she'll show you 1 minute left. So try to be precise with the time, okay? So without any further ado, let me welcome our first presenter. Our first presenter is Mr. Ibrahim Habib. Mr. Ibrahim Habib is a student at the North-South University, and he will be presenting on the plastic paradox, balancing innovation and environmental responsibility in Dhaka City. And this paper is jointly produced with Dr. Mohammad Hafiz Iqbal, a Bangladesh National Commission for UNESCO, Bangladesh. So Habib, you will have 15 minutes, so be precise. So we'll start our 15 minutes from now. Which paper?
Literary session.
Hello everyone, this is Ibrahim Habib. I'm from North-South University, and along with me, my co-author is Dr. M. Hafiz Iqbal, who is also my mentor. So today I'll be presenting the plastic paradox, balancing innovation and environmental responsibility in Dhaka City. So here we can see the presentation layout. Since the mid-20th century, the exponential growth in the production and consumption of plastic products, driven by their versatility and low cost in the production and consumption of plastic products, driven by their plastic pollution has emerged as a top concern due to widespread single-use plastic and inefficient waste system. Plastic pollution creates negative externalities such as health hazards, ecosystem degradation, reduced public welfare and property, and attractiveness and price. Environmental amenities like clean water and green spaces boost public satisfaction and environmental value. The quality value linkage offers a critical path for valuing non-market environmental goods. So, here's the plastic problem scenario and its impact. Firstly, we can see its exponential growth and environmental cost. So, 430 million tons of plastics are produced annually, and which contributes to 19% of greenhouse gas emissions by 2014. This also has severe consequences for health and ecosystems. There is also a disposal failure. The challenge is also observed in the consumption of 9 kg of plastic per person annually. The challenge in the context of Bangladesh is majority of plastics are not recycled. Thus, we call for urgent action. Our study is very rational in terms of economic valuation of Bangladesh. Plastic waste collection from household is underpriced or non-priced, preventing valuation via market price alone. Significant variability in social preferences across households requires targeted incentive-aligned instruments. Findings from high-income countries are not directly transferable to low-income countries like Bangladesh, where empirical data on plastic waste collection remains demonstrably scarce. Very few studies jointly applied contingent valuation method and choice experiment to valuing the plastic waste collection from household level through Revo preference and stated preference data. So, according to the background information, a few questions may arise in our mind. Firstly, can incentives effectively promote plastic waste collection practices? What factors are strongly associated with household engagement in plastic waste delivery? And finally, what would constitute an effective mechanism for plastic waste collection? Research objectives are aligned with our research questions. The general objective of our study is to quantify the economic value of plastic pollution. Our research objective 1 is to measure households' willingness to accept for plastic waste delivery from households for recycle. Our research objective 2 is to explore the associated factors of willingness to accept for plastic waste delivery from households. Then our last research objective is to develop actionable plastic collection strategies from household level. Then we showed the theoretical background like motivation, opportunity, ability, model, and random utility theory. So for the for the study area, we chose some parts of Dhaka North City Corporation and Dhaka South City Corporation, and these selection are based on how high population density, rapid unplanned urbanization, and non-plastic pollution issues. And the coverage areas include Mirpur 12, Uttara, Mohakali, Narinda, and Dhanmondi. We investigated a diverse range of areas, specifically examining slum areas, residential zones within Dhaka North City Corporation and Dhaka South City Corporation. Then comes the methodology part, where we showed the stages like qualitative input, data input, quantitative input, primary data, analysis, validation, and output. For the quantitative input, we organize, for the qualitative input, we organized 5 FCDS within 17th to 24th October 2024. For the data input, we organized a household income expenditure survey 2022. For the quantitative input, we chose contingent valuation method and choice experiment. For the primary data, we collected household surveys of 410. For the analysis part, we refined contingent valuation method and choice experiment. We also checked the robustness because our collected data may be affected by multicollinearity and heteroscedasticity. Then comes our sampling strategy and contingent valuation method. Stratified sampling was used to collect data from our respondents of 410, categorized into areas, heterogeneous subgroups. For the closed-ended questions, we offered our respondents with single and maximum possible incentive values like 50 taka per kg of plastic waste. The benefits of this format can be easier for the respondents to process and answer. direct focus of the valuation question, minimizes framing and cognitive issues. Then for the choice experiment part, the key attributes and associated levels were tested to avoid overly completed choice sets. The experiment was limited to 6 core attributes, and those are incentive type, incentive method offers, plastic waste collection technique, sorting requirement, plastic waste collection frequency, incentive for collected plastic waste from households. The instrument detailed the proposed plastic waste delivery program attributes and illustrated how the environmental status change under different collection methods. Then for the choice experiment, the number of combinations of hypothetical attributes and their levels became too large, as we can see here. To reduce the cognitive burden on respondents, we applied orthogonal design principle using fractional design and reduced it randomly to 16 for 4 versions of the choice cards, and each version contains 3 alternatives, including the status quo with the replacement procedure. Here in the table 2, we can see that we took the data for participants for socioeconomic and demographic characteristics. So here the mean age of our participants is 28.29. The mean monthly income is 27,903. The mean education is 8.80, whereas the household size is 5.54 units. In the table 3, we see that logit regression results on factors that affects the WTF for the PWM program. So here in model 1, we see that few attributes are affected, whereas in model 2, the factors that affected are increasing slightly. In the model 3, most of the attributes have increased. In the table 4, we estimated results of the random parameter logit and multi-nominal logit models. Here in option 1, in option 1 of the random parameter logit model, only attributes are affected and few attributes are affected in option 1 and 2. Whereas in option 3, we can also see few attributes are being affected. In the multinomial model, both attributes and coefficients are being affected. In the table 5, we run the estimation of marginal willingness to accept for collected plastic waste at household level. Now we come to the conclusion part. So firstly, substantial contribution from household sector is essential for effectively collection of plastic waste. By formalizing plastic collection techniques, plastic waste collection programs can significantly increase household participation and improve overall conditions in Dhaka. Combining simple incentive mechanisms with accessible collection offers a realistic path to sustainable waste collection. Convenient collection.
Just wait a minute.
Sure, may I continue?
Just give us a minute. The slide is out now. To take part. ওটা সেটা অনলাইন করতে হবে তো ভলান্টিয়ার কারা এগুলো এগুলো বসে থাকলে হবে হ্যাঁ 1-2জনকে যাও গিয়ে দেখো যে লোকটা আছে তাকে আসতে বলো মনে হচ্ছে যদি কেউ গেছে এখানে
জি স্যার, ঠিক আছে।
Okay, for presentation to shut up again. I'm going to. This one, right? Okay.
Uh, So let us start with conclusions part again. Substantial contribution from residential sectors is essential for effectively collection of plastic waste. By formalizing plastic collection techniques, plastic waste collection programs can significantly increase household participation and improve overall conditions in Dhaka. Combining simple incentive mechanisms with accessible collection offers a realistic path to sustainable waste collection. Convenient collection techniques and clear sorting requirements are the most significant factors in encouraging participation. Dhaka's model can contribute to nationwide efforts in Bangladesh and serve as a guide for other developing nations. There is no unmixed blessing on earth, and our proposed theory has also some limitations. And the critical challenges are hypothetical preferences versus the realized behavior, rebound and market effects, logistics and system costs, contamination risks. We also developed a future strategic actions that includes embed randomized payment pilots, conduct long-term impact assessments, estimate collection and sorting infrastructure costs, and implement third-party verification systems. So finally, cleanness is not a luxury. It is a key driver of environmental value in urban area. Thank you so much, everyone, for your patience and engagement.
Um, Thank you so much, Habib. That is a very good presentation. So you actually finished before your allocated time. So maybe we would be more interested to listen. I mean, during the open discussion, to listen to the theory. I think you skipped that slide, so maybe it will be very interesting to listen to that part and also the your results section, like getting into a bit more on that, and if there are any questions from the floor. So let me now welcome our next presenter. Our next presenter is Ms. Celia Bashar. She is a student of University of Dhaka, and it's a joint paper with Ms. Shamail Tariba Hussain. My apologies. Student, North South University, Bangladesh. So, Celia will be presenting her paper on BRICS and the future of global financial systems, reducing dependency on Western institutions and the US dollar. Celia, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kaji Celia Bashar, and I'm an undergraduate student from the Department of International Relations, University of Dhaka. This paper is co-authored with Shamail Tariba Hussain, who is also an undergraduate from the Department of Economics at North South University. Today, I will present a paper titled BRICS and the Future of Global Financial Systems, Reducing Dependency on Western Institutions and the US Dollar, Between Rhetoric and Reality. This paper evaluates whether recent BRICS financial initiatives represent structural transformation of the international monetary system or gradual diversification within an existing monetary structure. The international financial system continues to operate around institutions created after the Bretton Woods Conference, especially through the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. At the same time, the US dollar remains dominant across global reserves, trade settlement, and cross border payments. However, BRICS countries are developing alternative development financing institutions, expanding local currency trade settlement, and supporting new payment infrastructure outside traditional Western networks. This paper evaluates whether these developments represent systemic transformation or diversification within the existing dollar centered order. This paper focuses on four core objectives. First, it examines institutional alternatives such as the new development bank and the contingent reserve arrangement. Second, it assesses expansion of local currency settlement across BRICS trade relationships. Third, it evaluates development of alternative payment infrastructure outside Western networks. Finally, it analyzes whether these initiatives represent structural transformation or gradual diversification within the existing dollar-centered system. Now, before evaluating alternatives, it is important to understand the strength of the existing system. According to IMF data, the United States dollar accounts for about 58% of global foreign exchange reserves. It participates in roughly 88% of global foreign exchange transactions, according to the Bank for International Settlements. It also represents around 47% of global payments, according to SWIFT data. These indicators show that the dollar performs three roles simultaneously. First, it functions as the main reserve currency. Second, it acts as the main settlement currency. And finally, as the main intervention currency. Because of its liquidity depth and global acceptance of dollar denominated assets, switching away from dollar remains costly for most economies. This dominance is also reinforced by the depth of United States financial markets, especially Treasury securities, which continue to function as safe assets during periods of global uncertainty. Because central banks require stability and liquidity in reserve assets, they continue to rely on dollar denominated instruments. Now, for the analytical framework, this study combines economic and political economic explanations. From an economic perspective, reserve currency dominance depends on transaction efficiency and liquidity depth. Once a currency becomes widely used in trade invoicing and reserve holdings, replacement becomes difficult. From a political economic perspective, hegemonic stability explains how the United States supported monetary stability after the Bretton Woods system through institutional leadership and arrangements. Moreover, dependency theory explains why emerging economies attempt to diversify settlement mechanism to reduce external financial vulnerability. Together, these approaches explain why diversification is increasing while dollar dominance continues. BRICS cooperation expanded development financing through the new development bank. The NDB supports infrastructure investment across member economies and provides an additional source of long-term project financing outside the Bretton Woods institutions. BRICS countries also established the contingent reserve arrangement, which provides short-term liquidity support during balance of payments pressure. These mechanisms improve financial policy flexibility for emerging economies. However, their lending scale remains smaller than the World Bank and IMF. So they supplement rather than replace existing development finance structures. For many emerging economies, this additional source of infrastructure financing is important because it expands negotiation space and allows government to diversify borrowing partners instead of depending on a single institutional framework. This reflects a gradual shift toward a more plural structure of a development finance rather than a single dominant lending architecture. Another important dimension of BRICS cooperation involves expansion of local currency settlement through bilateral trade arrangements. China plays an important role through expansion of renminbi settlement corridors across Asia, Latin America, and parts of Africa. Currency swap agreements between China and partner economies support diversification of payment structures and reduce exchange rate exposure in bilateral trade. Alternative messaging systems such as SIPs and SPFs also provide settlement channels outside the SWIFT network. These developments increase payment resilience during financial disruptions. However, their use remains concentrated within regional trade corridors rather than global capital markets. So the settlement diversification is increasing faster than reserve diversification. This is especially visible in the growing use of the renminbi in trade settlement, where its role is expanding faster than its role in global reserves. So the current changes are happening first at the transaction level before they appear at the reserve level of the international monetary system. Financial sanctions have increased incentives to reduce reliance on dollar-based payment systems. After restrictions on access to Western financial infrastructure in 2022, Russia expanded settlement in renminbi and increased reliance on alternative platforms. These developments show that payment infrastructure is increasingly linked with international economic security strategy, and currency usage is increasingly reflecting geopolitical considerations alongside market efficiency. However, sanctions alone cannot transform the international monetary system. Structural advantages of the dollar continue to shape settlement behavior and reserve allocation decisions. One important takeaway from this study is that emerging economies now operate inside a hybrid monetary structure. There are several benefits of it. It ensures access to alternative infrastructure finance through institutions such as the New Development Bank, reduced exchange risk in bilateral trade settlement. It also makes stronger resilience in cross border payments and creates additional liquidity options during financial stress. However, constraint also remains significant. The dollar still accounts for about 58% of global reserves. Alternative currencies continue to have limited liquidity, and regulatory fragmentation slows adoption of non-dollar settlement mechanisms. This means emerging economies are gaining flexibility in how they manage trade settlement and infrastructure financing, but they still operate within a system when global liquidity cycles remain strongly influenced by US monetary policy. So diversification improves resilience, but it does not yet create full monetary independence. BRICS cooperation is increasingly expanding alternatives in development finance, settlement systems, and payment infrastructure. Local currency settlement is increasing across regional trade corridors. However, structural advantages of the US dollars remain intact across reserves and payments. Advantages linked to liquidity depth, network externalities, and institutional credibility remain difficult to replicate. The evidence therefore suggests movement toward a layered monetary environment rather than replacement of the existing global financial order. Thank you for your time. I look forward to your questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ilya, for finishing well ahead of the time. You didn't even.
I was told we will have
Yes,
15 minutes
okay.
only.
So,
Yeah.
so usually, in economics conferences, it's pretty usual for economists to actually overstretch their time. So go beyond 10 to. Since we have a couple of minutes, so let me give a suggestion to you, both of you, and maybe our next presenter is try to explain what is on the slide, okay, rather than going through them line by line. Try to explain what is behind it, okay? What does it mean? Or so basically, we all can, everything that we see there on the slide, everything is information, right? So when there are something there, so what the brain will do for the audience, they will inherently read the lines. So hearing from you, that will re-emphasize it. But if you add some extra information to it, it goes for both of you, Hasib. Okay, so Habib. So this way. So the thing is that it will make it more lively, okay, and more useful use of the you're allocated 15 minutes. Now you have 5 minutes that we will use in the discussion. Anyway, so we have our next presenter, Mr. Shakil Khan. So Shakil Khan is a student of Dhaka School of Economics and is a joint paper with Ms. Chisan Mitul, who is the lecturer of Dhaka School of Economics, and Ms. Naomi Rahman, who is a student of the University of Dhaka. Shakil, which year are you on?
I'm currently pursuing my master's.
You're in master's.
Yes.
Okay. So Shakil, you have 15 minutes. So Shakil will be presenting, analyzing the impacts of nationally determined contributions, that is NDC, on the power sector of Bangladesh. So Shakil, you have 15 minutes.
Thank you.
Use these buttons, but not.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Shakil.
Shakil, you have to use the microphone.
Okay, sorry. Assalamu
It's alright. It's on now. Yeah, okay.
alaikum. Good evening, everyone. I'm Shakil. And today I'm presenting our paper titled Analyzing the Impacts of Nationally Determined Contributions, or NDC, on the power sector of Bangladesh, a comparative study of NDC 1.0 and NDC 2.0. This work was combinedly conducted with my co-authors Zishanara Mitu and Naomi Rahman. This study examines how Bangladesh's climate commitments have evolved and what they imply for the power sector, and whether the current trajectories are sufficient to meet those commitments by 2030. To begin with the background, Bangladesh is highly vulnerable to climate change. At the same time, its electricity demand is rising with economic growth, industrialization, and expanding electrification. So this creates a policy challenge. On the one hand, the country needs more electricity to support its development. On the other hand, the power sector remains heavily dependent on fossil fuel, which increases emissions. So decarbonizing the power sector is not just an environmental issue. It's the central to achieving Bangladesh's national climate commitments under the Paris Agreement. So this brings us to the core question of the study. How do Bangladesh NDC 1.0 and NDC 2.0 affect the power sector emissions pathway? And what does this imply for the policy? To answer this, we had four objectives. First, we compare the mitigation ambition of NDC 1.0 and NDC 2.0. Second, we compare business as usual, NDC, and current policy scenarios. Third, we assess whether Bangladesh is on track or requires further action. And finally, we estimate the scale of transformation required in the power sector to align the NDC target. For the methodology, we combined, this study combines scenario analysis with Kaya identity framework. We used data from sources like UNFCCC documents, IEA energy data, Climate Action Tracker, BPDB, BBS, and World Bank indicators. The Kaya identity framework helps us to identify the key emission drivers through four core variables: population growth, GDP per capita, energy intensity, and carbon intensity. Then for the target year 2030, we constructed 5 different scenarios. First, business as usual, then unconditional NDC target and conditional NDC target, combined NDC ambition, and finally, current policy trajectories. From these scenarios, we generated four main outputs: emission pathways to 2030, mitigation target gaps, scale of transformation required, and policy and implications. After setting up the framework, we then compare how Bangladesh climate commitments evolved. NDC 1.0, updated in 2015, was relatively modest. It aimed around 5% below business as usual by 2030. And overall, it was broadly achievable under the existing trends. On the other hand, the NDC 2.0, updated in 2021, raised its overall ambition. The unconditional reduction increased to around 6.73% below business as usual. There was greater emphasis on the power sector. It also introduced a renewable electricity target around 12.5% by 2030. So the key issue is implementation gap. According to the BBS, the renewables are only around 1 to 2% of the total electricity generation in 2022. This slide represents one of the key findings of the study. In the business as usual, Bangladesh's power sector CO2 emissions are projected to be around 90 to 95 million tons in 2030. The current policies in trajectory is almost same to the level at around 88.5 million tons. The NDC 1.0 sets a relatively modest ambition at around 87.8 million tons, which implies that NDC 1.0 is broadly on track under the existing policies. The NDC 2.0, on the other hand, raised a relatively lower target at around 51.4 million tons, which shows that there is a substantial gap between the current policy and NDC 2.0. So the message is clear that Bangladesh is not on track under the NDC 2.0 emission trajectory. This slide explains the scale of efforts required to reduce the gap. If Bangladesh generates 147.2 trillion watt hours of electricity in 2030 and wants to keep the emissions within 51.4 million tons of carbon dioxide, then it would need to minimize the grid intensity at 349 grams of carbon dioxide per kilowatt hours. We then estimate what this means under different fossil fuel scenario. If the fossil mix is gas dominant, it would still require 37.6% of the renewable. Under balanced fossil mix, the country would require 51.8% renewables. Under a coal-heavy fossil mix, it requires 60.8% renewables. So it's clear that the current renewable target at NDC, which is 12.5%, is far below what is actually required. And the thing we should note is that the recent actual, which is 2% only, is further behind what is actually needed. From these results, the policy implications are quite significant. First, incremental policy change will not be enough. This is not possible to reduce the gap by incremental policy changes. Massive renewable development is essential. Avoiding further coal dependence is critical. Gas may play only a limited role, transitional role, but not a long time role. Energy efficiency and demand side management are necessary complements to the supply side. The higher renewable penetration requires further grid flexibility, storage, and transmission upgrades. International support and climate finance are matter for the conditional ambition of Bangladesh. To conclude, this study finds NDC 1.0 was relatively achievable under the existing trends. That's why NDC 1.0 was broadly on track under the NDC 1.2 framework. The NDC 2.0, on the other hand, is substantially more ambitious and requires dedicated action. Bangladesh's core challenge is not rising electricity demand, but the main issue is carbon intensity of electricity generation. So, without rapid power sector transformation, the updated target is unlikely to be met by 2030. So the broader conclusion of this study is Bangladesh's updated NDC requires a structural transition in the power sector, not merely a gradual improvement. Thank you everyone for your attention. I'm open for any kind of question and discussion. Thank you.
You should clap louder actually for all of your presenters. So thank you, Shakil, for your presentation.
Welcome, sir.
I think you all three, you are quite diligent students. So you all three finished like around 10 minutes. So because you were told to finish in 10 minutes, so I mean that's very good. You made the time. Anyway, so we have around 45 minutes for discussion. So I will. That means you have more questions from the discussion and from me as well.
No problem.
So one question, for example, I have for you is that how did you estimate your like the reduction targets? Like when you say like if you go to the slide, so yeah, if you just here, yeah, just before that one, this one, yeah. This one, not this one, but the previous one, yeah, right here. So when you are saying that you mentioned that it is your predictions like the record reduction rates and everything. So maybe it would be better if you give the audience like hints on how you estimated it. You don't have to respond now because my colleagues here, the discussants, they will ask you, all three of you, some questions. So just note down the questions and then I will give you the floor to respond, okay? So have your, if you're old fashioned like me, use notepad and pen, or you can use your mobile phone, that's fine. But take notes of the questions that come from the discussion and then go. Okay, so for the first paper, the plastic paradox balancing innovation and environmental responsibility in Dhaka City by Ibrahim Habib. Our discussant is Deepa Das. Deepa, so I will give you around 10 minutes to discuss two papers together. So you can discuss the Habib paper and then CDS paper on Greeks and the future of global finance, right? So the next 10 minutes is yours, okay?
Thank you very much. Very well presentation, Mr. Habib, and this is a very relevant and very timely study. And your motivations are very clear in the study. I have already gone through the papers. So since Dhaka, like we are we are in an environmentally very fragile condition currently, and this plastic crisis is a very real and understudied area, and also very timely, as I have already mentioned. So first, I would like to mention few positive sides, that is that in your paper you have used the mixed method study design, which is you have already had the FGDs, household survey, and also you have used a strong econometric model, which is well structured, and also you have stratified the sampling, as since Dhaka is one of the crowded and also most populated city, we can say maybe. So you have also divided it into slums, residential zones, which is also very good in terms of sampling. So, but I have a few feedbacks which I want to give. Basically, in one of your paper, like in your paper in table 5, you have you are kind of mixing the MWTA with the MWTP. So both are different concepts. One, like I think you should be careful while writing the paper that both things are different in terms of definition. So that needs to be clarified in the paper. That might create a conceptual conception while going through the entire paper. And also table 5, there are some point estimates which is outside the confidence interval. Like for example, in one of your slide, the MWTA was 10.97 with a CL of 4.03 to 5.24. This needs to be cross-checked maybe, and you can maybe go through that again before submitting for publication if you have any plan to do so. Also, there are sign reversal among the models. You have used 3 models, and for the incentive part, two models are showing different sign. In first model, it was showing negative sign, and in the other model, it was showing positive sign. So this needs to be check whether there is any multicollinearity between the models, or there are some specification, because they are using the same data set, and but they are showing different signs for the one variable in 2 models. So also I think another thing I was going, that is you have a sample size of 490. 410, and it is stratified by location. But in your sample, there are 82% of the respondents are male. So it is a serious imbalance for a study about household waste behavior. Since women bears a huge burden of the pollution or waste management. I think we should be you should mention something about that, and about the domestic waste management. Women holds a very strong part, and in your paper you haven't clarified about the distribution, the sample distribution in slums area, in the residential area. What was the sample distribution among the total sample, surveyed sample? And in one of your such slide, you have said you have used HICE data for secondary analysis. But I have a question, like why you have used it, since it's the household level data. How have you incorporated that? It was not very clear to me, and you can maybe give me some clarification on that. And again, I have already mentioned about the confusion between MWTA and MWTP. Both are completely different concepts, so you need to be bit careful. And I think that's all from my end for your paper. All the best, and I hope looking forward to your answers. Thank you.
Now, if you can give the comments to Celia as well.
Okay.
The second presentation.
So, for the second presentation, I haven't gone through the PPT earlier. I was going through your papers, which you have already shared previously. So there were no data figures were there in your extended abstract slide. So I was going to give you a comment that incorporates some actual data tables because it was completely missing and should make some actual analytical framework. So, however, in your presentation, I have seen that you have already incorporated the some data figures. But some things I would still like to highlight that in your slide 7, the CIP's growth chart, you have shown that it is still 2018. So now it is almost 2026. So the data is almost 8 years old. So I think you should use the updated data because 9 years is too long. And also in none of your slides, just to give some feedback, in none of your slides, there was no slide number. So it was very difficult for me to track down like which slide I was referring. And also in none of your figures, there was no source of the data, like from where you have taken the data, what was the source of the data. There was nothing mentioned as source. So whenever you are making some presentation in some conferences, there should be some source mentioned, so the audience don't get confused. Another thing, in the same slide, in slide 7, there was cross-border payment projection chart, which is again forecasted figures up to 2027. But it was not labeled, so I'm not sure whether it is from a valid source or not. So also in your paper, there was no disaggregate between the blocks in BRICS. India's position is particularly important. India has actively
Can change the mark, please. Never finished one, right?
sorry. So in your paper, there was no disaggregate between the blocks. Like in BRICS, India's position is very important. India has actively registered a formal BRICS currency, maintains strong IF ties, and its central bank holds relatively few yuan-dominated reserves. I think for framing a united BRICS push toward the dollarization, there should be some mention about the blocking what the BRICS countries are suggesting what they are whether they are actually aligning in the same currency or not. There are no mention about that. And also about slide 6 currently identifies the NDB's function, but it is not giving any lending figures. But you could have give some lending figures of NDB because there are data available. So you can maybe put some figures that will make it better. Also, before the presentation, you already know that like the dollar is actually still influencing, even though the BRICS is formed, but the dollarization is not happening. So we already know the outcome, and you are in the conclusion, we are again going to the same conclusion. So I think you should frame it in a better way. That like, what is your question? You are already stating the result in the first slide, first 2 or 3 slides, and again in the result we are giving the same question. Maybe you can reform your research question. Maybe show some other sites or some other important insights. Maybe you can incorporate. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Deepa. I mean, you're also very diligent. You finished right before your 10-minute time. So let me go to my colleague Sudipta Roy. So Sudipta, again, I give you just 5 minutes because you have just 1 minute to discuss. But if you have any comments for Habib or Celia, please, you have my freedom to have another 5 minutes, okay?
So first, the paper is actually very timely and policy relevant, actually, and that addresses question with urgency. I would say this is actually a very well written paper, and the presentation was very nice. I was actually organizing remarks into actually 4 parts, right? Discussing how what's the strength of the paper. I think the methodology is transparent. You use the Kaya analysis, right? So I think analysis is decomposed it into like GDP, population, energy composition, and decomposing it into communication challenges with two actionable levels, carbon intensity and the electricity intensity. I actually find it good. There's another internal inconsistency found. I actually read the paper. So there's in section 6, because we probably didn't present it here, or actually you read it in the paper. So like it you get promise to like ensure that indices to own emissions target of 51.4 carbon dioxide by 2030 and its own renewable target of 12.5%. They are mutually incompatible. And actually achieving 51.4, we had on a carbon dioxide from 147.2 or of generation requires a grid carbon intensity of roughly 349. I think that this seems like Bangladesh is updated in this actually contains a structural numerical contradiction, and that apparently went unnoticed. I think, but then it comes to the actually. I have a bit question about the Kaya framework you described. You didn't demonstrate much, even in the presentation and also in the paper. Even I couldn't find anything that like you demonstrated as in what, how much of Bangladesh coal Egyptian emissions growth between 2012 and 2030 is driven by population, GDP growth, and rising electricity intensity or worsening carbon intensity. Currently functions here as a conceptual frame or slightly, not as an analytical result. I think you should add a table for this, showing each factor's contribution for at least 3 references. Without this section, I think will appear as a mathematical decoration, I would say, rather than actually the decomposition analysis. And also use a GDP protection from Invest Bangladesh. I would actually suggest you use data from World Bank or IMF for this instead of US Bangladesh only. That's another point comment I have. Another is the policy sections. I think the policy sections can be more rigid for them. They sound reasonable, but I think it could be like a checklist, I would say. Like given Bangladesh specific constraints like land scarcity, limited grid integration, capacity, narrow space, and it's a which level is actually most finding. I think to prioritize this recommendations and also I have some few questions for the paper. One is like the actual decomposed values for the Kaya values for 2012 to 2022 period, and how much of the observed emissions growth is driven by the carbon intensity of the grid versus rising electricity intensity of GDP, and how sensitive is the 38 to 61% required renewable to range to lower electricity demand scenarios? Another one of the questions. And also you showed some arithmetic in the paper that shows that NDC proves to fund those emission target and its renewables target mutual inconsistent. Was this actually inconsistent actually known to you, or like what? And also, what does it imply for Bangladesh credibility of Bangladesh climate agreement? Commitment under Paris Agreement. Also, given Bangladesh's known pipeline of known committed projects and LNG terminal agreements, which of which fossil emissions is closest to the actual plan 2030 generation. Does the answer change your classification of NDC 2.0? Also, another thing is like NDC 3.0 actually has some. I think your paper can do well better with the integration of NDC 3.0 and like even the targets, and there's a reduction in the business as usual scenarios. So I think the paper was definitely written before the NDC 3.10 agreement, but if you are looking to publish this paper, I would definitely suggest integrate NDC 3.0, otherwise it would actually lose its relevance. Finally, I think a bit of suggestions, I would say you should, what I was saying before, you should put more tables for the carry composition. I couldn't find, I was actually interested to know on those. And what else? And also you can as part of the policy recommendation, I think you can actually give it a prioritized action metrics like qualitative or like high, medium, low rating of each recommendations. I think you can do like that. And also at definitely at the interest incorporate the NDC 3.0. And also like if you do not do that, or we can also adjust the section, but I would actually recommend you to just create that. I think done here.
Sorry,
Go on,
since I
yeah,
have
that's all.
finished earlier, I have an additional suggestion.
Please go on.
Ms. Basher, that is in your presentation, there was a slide 5, that introduces hegemon stability theory and dependency theory. But neither of the concepts, I didn't find any of those in the paper. I think like you should maybe more make it more clear in your papers also, and also in your slides, so that I think the framework is introduced, but where it has been applied, it needs to be a bit clarified. So thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I think all of you got lots of comments, and I have some, but I will come back to it later. So let me open the floor now. If you're interested to ask any questions to the presenters today, please do so. Raise your hand and introduce yourself and ask the question to the presenters.
Okay, thank you very much. I actually enjoyed all the three presentation because all of the young and promising also. And I have a few comments and questions and solutions also. First, I start from the Kazi Sherlock. Okay. In your the title acronyms, which I think you think I'm layman. Okay, just use the root from. This is essential. Okay, at the initial stage or the title level, it is intolerable. Okay, this is my solution. Okay, and basically the other thing is time series data. When you use the data from the existing source, right? And of course, it requires always the robust state. Okay, and you have no scope. Okay, these are the data, and this will be happen. Okay, no scope, and based on the estimated result and the check the data quality. This is very much essential. Okay, and in your another slide, the benefits and the constants. We need some sort of the evidence. Okay, and without the evidence, it is overstatement, and it will be insignificant. Okay, and in future, just if you raise this issue in your manuscript, of course, align with the existing literature. Okay, and the result section, in your result section, result should be more specific. Okay, this is my question and solution is particular to you. And another few questions, just can I ask?
Yeah, just be very brief, okay?
Okay. Mr. Shakil Khan. Okay. Actually, Bangladesh is not the major emitter. Okay. And the agriculture sector and the transport sector and the energy sectors are also responsible. And as not a big emitter, okay, and Bangladesh is not based on the Kyoto Protocol. Okay. Bangladesh is not gives more emphasis on the NDC. Okay. And just if you consider the emission is the global public goods, and in that perspective, it's possible to contribute voluntarily, not mandatorily. Okay. And basically the fund.
Is that your suggestion or your question?
Just I just mentioned the why you consider the NDC aligned with the energy sector. Okay, okay, based on the public goods, global public goods, and that maybe makes sense. Okay, this is my suggestion. And another thing is the you use the more data, but no citation, and you will be confused. Okay, why do you collect this sort of data? And just if you use some sort of the data or the information, of course, we must consider the citation. Okay, and data source is very much essential. And in your slide, I also see the CO2 emission. You give more emphasis, but it will be more significant. Just which energy sector is responsible for CO2 emission. Just show the disaggregate or the coal or the gas or something like that. And in your interpretation and policy implication, it should be raised from your how to say the result. Okay, based on your result, you can say something in your policy implication. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Any other question? Okay, good. Could you stop the phone?
Hello.
It's working. Yeah, you can use it.
So my name is Nabila Hassan. So I would like to just continue in reply to that is in Dhaka, you have the worst kind of hazardous with air condition, right? So NDC is relevant for Bangladesh, and that NDC 2 and 3 are always will be relevant. So my research is inclined to environmental economics, so that's the comment. And I would say I agree with Sridito that you should check with NDC 3 and NDC 2 before kind of justifying your approach or your policy implications. And I would like to thank all of you for your presentations, and that's it. Thank you.
Okay, good. So any other hands? Any other feedback for the rising researchers? Any other? Okay, so let me. So I will give you. I have very brief couple of questions for you. Let me start with Habib. So Habib, as I was saying, like you didn't explain your theory part. So maybe if you take the moment. So when I give you the floor, like explain the theory you speak, and then when I look at the data, I was there's a huge the range is huge from 3,000 to 750,000 taka. I mean, in terms of like the I think it's the income. So how does it affect your estimation? Did you resource it? Did you check for the exit values and all that? And then in some of your regressions, I saw your observations are like one third of the whole total observation. For example, you mentioned that your observation was 400 or something, but in your regression it was like 150 or 100 something. Then I have also one question. You mentioned about the mixed method, but it was not clearly mentioned like why you used the mixed method or how the mixed method. Like when we use mixed method research, there is a background to it. Like why I'm going to do the FGDs or why I'm going to do the KI. Like are they to support the findings or are they to construct the quantitative findings? So it should be used to construct the findings or support the complement the findings. So how did you use your mixed method findings was not clear. I was not. I mean, you should spend some more time on your data. Like how did you select the respondents? How they were. I mean, basically, what was your? Did you go for simple random sampling or stratified random sampling? What was your randomization? How do you select your sample size? It was not also clear. I agree with Deepa with the haze data. I don't know how it was not clear how you use that data. Then on the paper from Celia, in a paper, my suggestion would be have a very clear idea of your research question. Okay, since it's splendid that you're presenting in a conference. So in an international conference, although we are presenting in Bangladesh, but for our friends from other countries, it's an international conference. So it's a pretty big achievement to present your paper when you're an undergraduate student. But the undergraduate master student. So but it's very important to have your research question clearly stated. Okay, so what you're going to identify in your paper. And then in all the papers that we do, in particular in economics, I'm sorry, my apologies, I'm an economist, so everything goes in that way. So in all our papers, kind of follow a common structure. Like it starts with the introduction, then there's a data and methodology, then we talk about what models we are going to follow, and what are our data sources, and then what are our research questions, and what methodology we're going to use, and our findings. So it will be a bit interesting if you make it, or very valuable for your research if you just structure it that way. Lastly, with Shakil, I think Sudhit already gave you lots of comments, and but I think the climate change is a global issue. Okay, so it's a global issue. It's not only Bangladesh. It's we have to follow the. If we do not do it, then we can't say. I politely disagree with you, because I think although we say we are very least producer, but we do emit a lot, because we are one of the largest producer of metals in the world, and they are a very big contributor of carbon dioxide in the world. So kind of 40% of the world carbon dioxide comes from the cows and cattle. So it's not only the transport which actually emits the carbon dioxide, okay? It's also the food that we consume. So what I'm saying is that, but your paper doesn't talk about the cows and cattle. So your paper talks about the electricity, which is also good. But you see, why it matters for the countries like ours, because it's a country of 200 million people. So in a country like this, if we try to, or if we want to be like an upper middle income country with $1 trillion economy by 10 years, then we will need lots of electricity. And then if we continue using these fossil fuels, will be the leading carbon emitting country. So I agree with you on this one that, and I politely disagree with you on this one, is that, we have to go for the, electricity, going for green energy and clean energy. And from SUNM, we actually do a lot of research on this one. Anyway, I want to give each of you 5 minutes, okay, to respond. So let me start with Celia. So you have 5 minutes to respond to all the questions you got, or you can just, smile and tell, okay, I'll look at them, okay? The choice is yours. I apply for you guys as well.
No problem.
For everyone's suggestion, I would like to reply to Deepa ma'am first. Actually, I did not have much time to prepare my slides. I think I submitted the abstract in September last year. So I got called 2 days ago. So I had my exams going on as well. So the slides are not very properly prepared. I agree on this.
Oh, you did well. You did really well there.
Thank you so much. Also, I have actually written down all the suggestions, so I will be applying it accordingly. I would like to reply to sir on one thing that you have mentioned. It was intolerable to see BRICS as the short form, but BRICS is basically 5 countries' names, like Brazil, Russia, India. So I thought it would not look nice if I just randomly write the names of the countries. So I went with BRICS. Yeah, that's all. I think my paper needs to be modified. A lot of modifications are needed, and I will do it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone. Firstly, I would like to reply Deepa ma'am.
Just hold the mic a bit here. Okay.
Is it also audible?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's audible.
So Deepa ma'am told me that 82% respondents were male. And it's true. Actually, when you conducted the survey, actually we went on field work. So we got more male, that's why we conducted the survey. But thank you so much, ma'am. Women, as you told, that women bears a burden of pollution, and women's role are very important part actually. So I will definitely add this to my paper. Then you told me that marginal willingness to accept and marginal willingness to pay are different concepts, but I used this in the same table. So
One table said that it was
yes,
yes, the explanation was something else. So there was
yes, ma'am. There was a mixture actually. So
Kind of purpose made.
yes, actually,
modified, not
yes, ma'am.
I'm just suggesting.
Then, as Sir Mahatibuddin sir told me that in the I took survey of 410, but in the regression model you saw 150 or something, I guess. So this was a mistake. So I will definitely counter this in the next time. Thank you so much.
He didn't mention, like in his paper, he actually clarified like why he did the KS and FGD. It was before the survey, he did the KS and FGDs, and then they like find the questions that you should have answered.
It's all right. If you're happy to move on, then are you happy with all the answers? Do you have anything else? Okay. Shakil?
Thank you. To begin with, Mahtab sir's first question, how did I estimate 147 terawatt hours and 51.4 million tons carbon dioxide and average grid intensity at around 349 grams of carbon dioxide per kilowatt hours? Actually, the figure 147.2 terawatt per hour is got from the BPD, Bangladesh Power Board Power Divisions. And 51.4 million tons of carbon dioxide is the NDC2's targeted emission actually. And from that, 349 grams of carbon dioxide per kilowatt hour is the calculation which I got by dividing 51.4 by 147.2. Actually, it at first came with not gram, but with some other points or other estimator. Then we converted it into grams. Coming to the Sudipto sirs, he actually suggested me too many ideas.
Sorry for the
No problem. He actually said that Kaya identity framework was not fully done in my paper, but I'm sorry that there are not enough data available to to show it fully in our paper. In Bangladesh, you know, there are lots of gaps of data, especially in the power sector, as you already are working in this field. So we decided to do this as a conceptual framework. Then Sudipto sir also suggested us the policy section should be rigid actually, as you have said, and we will maintain it for further journal publication or something else. Then the question which actually overlaps is why we excluded NDC 3.2. We actually started working this paper for the last 1.5 years. And during that time, there was no NDC 3.2 actually.
Yeah, I figured that.
Yes. NDC, probably if I am not wrong, NDC 3.2 was published during the September or October. And unfortunately, during that time, we already submitted the paper to you. That's why we couldn't actually adjust that term or NDC 3.2. We would try to figure it out for further publication. Then again, Sudipto sir told us to add some more tables on Kaya decomposition. We will try, but as per we tried till now, we couldn't do anything further as there is a limitation of data. Then coming to the policy level, as sir told us from audience section, Bangladesh is not a major emitter, I'm totally agree with you. Bangladesh is not a major emitter, but as far as I know that Paris Agreement, under Paris Agreement, we all are voluntarily combined, committed to do it. So that's why Bangladesh needs to consider it, obviously. Mm. Another thing, data sources, as you mentioned, my data sources. I was not actually aware of this, whether we should include data sources in this presentation, or there are not actually any strict rules or guidelines. How should we actually present, or what in what way we should submit our presentation. So I think Sanam should do it from further, from the next session or next year or next time. Mm, uh, that's all from my side, as I have already tried to say all of my suggestions and questions answers. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shakil, and Habib and Celia. So particularly, I'm very happy with all the responses that you have, you gave, and your presentation as well. Given that it could be your very first presentation in an international conference, and also Shakil, as you rightly mentioned, that you were not given any suggestion on what to put up. So I can give you one suggestion is that all our I think our previous SAIC or our conference presentations are usually online. So maybe you guys can go online and look for some conference presentations. What are they like and what do you look like?
Okay, sure.
So that can help you, and also try to attend some conferences like this whenever you can. So you will be able to see like how they present, what are the contents that they do have, and how to incorporate the comments and feedback. So it will definitely widen all of your expertise. With that, we are almost towards the end of the session. And before I conclude, I would like to tell our heartfelt thanks from Sanet to our rising researchers. So can you have a big round of clap for all of them?
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. So I think we have a certificate sessions. Okay. So let's do it now. Thank you. So our closing will be in the auditorium. It should start at 7:15, and then we have a cultural session from 7:30 to 8 p.m. And then we have dinner. Please join us for those sessions as well. Yeah, sure. So artifact, ready? এরপরে তো 30 চলে যাচ্ছে কোনো ইংলিশ কি শেষ হয়েছে ছেলেগুলো
হ্যাঁ স্যার আমাদের
তুমি কখন শেষ হয়েছিল না 5:45 ছিল নিচে আর দুটো সেশন চলছে তো আছে কনফারেন্স অডিটোরিয়াম আছে হ্যাঁ